Hey guys, so today I am ranking the top 50 players in the NHL heading into the 2022-23 season. So starting off our list, we have Elias Lindholm, Thomas Chabot, Max Pacioretty, Sean Couturier, Moritz Seider, Miro Heiskanen, Jacob Slavin, Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, and Timo Meier. Elias Lindholm was a Selke candidate this past season, and he's very good defensively. Although I don't think he should have been a Selke candidate, he is still an elite two-way center. He's very good defensively and also brings a lot to the table offensively. Thomas Chabot ate up big minutes last season with the Senators, posting very, very good individual expected goals for percentage, and I think that this year he can be in the push to be top 10 defenseman in the NHL. I kind of have him hovering around that area. Some people are very high on him, and I think if he can continue this into next season, taking these big minutes and having these very good results, helping this Ottawa Senators playoff push as they're starting to contend, I think he could definitely find his way into being a top 10 defenseman in the NHL. Max Pacioretty, who's now in Calgary, he's got this big injury, but I think he is still an elite winger, putting up the best results of his career a couple years ago in the 1920 season. Sean Couturier is another very good elite two-way center, much like Elias Lindholm, who has been the definition of defensive and two-way consistency for the last 4 or 5 years. Moritz Seider just won the Calder Trophy, and he is an elite defenseman, and I think he will be a top-tier defenseman in the NHL very soon. Heiskanen, as well, is a very good defenseman who's just continuing to improve from his rookie year. Slavin, one of the best, if not the best, defensive defenseman in the league. Well, Forsberg putting up career numbers last year. Very good, although I want to see another year of this, but he put up 84 points in 69 games with Nashville, so very good numbers for him. Ryan O'Reilly, another guy who has been extremely consistent as one of the league's top two-way centers, much like Couturier. But Ryan O'Reilly has been at this for the last 7-8 years with the Blues and Sabres. And Timo Meier, a guy that some of you may be surprised to see this high, but I am quite high on him. He has very good analytics. He put up 76 points in 77 games, with one shy of a point per game last year on a pretty bad Sharks team without much offense, but him and Turtle were two very bright spots on this team, and I think Meier can continue to be this point per game player. He is an elite winger. Next up, we have Alex Ovechkin, Dougie Hamilton, Elias Pettersson, Nikolai Ehlers, Devin Toews, Kyle Connor, Jack Hughes, Jake Gensel, Aaron Ekblad, and Joe Pavelski. So a lot of you may be upset with Alex Ovechkin being slow, but after having a very good start to the season, he did cool down. I think he is still definitely an elite winger and one of the top goal scorers in the league. He put up 90 points in 77 games, so above a point per game, and he was a 50 goal scorer with 50 goals. But his defense is not good anymore. It never has been, but his defense has regressed a lot. And I think that we are going to see some more regression next season, as he was very good at the start of the year, but he did slow down a lot. And I think we will see that carry on next season as he kind of regressed to become more of a slightly above point per game player who's not a good defense center. Dougie Hamilton, elite defenseman who a lot of people have lower. He was injured for most of the year last year, but I think he is still a top defenseman in the NHL. Elias is very good forward, and after putting 66 points in his rookie year, he hasn't really done too much to improve after that, but he is also sneaky good defensive center as well, and I think that a breakout is pending for him to take that next step and become a superstar center. Nikolai Ehlers, an elite winger on the Jets, and I think he is quite underrated as he is still very, very good, and he puts up great results. He is a point-per-game level player. Devin Toews, an elite defenseman, Cale Makar's defense pairing partner, and who's consistently put up elite analytics for the last few years. And playing with Makar on Colorado, we've really started to see those results as he's always been very good defensively, and offensively he's taken a step up in Colorado too. We've started to see those results that we have predicted from those analytics, and he is an elite defenseman. I think that he is a top 10 defenseman in the league for sure, and he doesn't just get carried by Makar. He does a lot on his own. Makar handles a lot of the offense, but Devin Toews does do a lot defensively. He is one of the best defensemen defensively, as well as being very impactful offensively. Kyle Connor, not great defensively, but he's still a stud offensively. Jack Hughes, he's one I want to talk about quite a bit. A lot of you guys may think this is a bit high for him, but he did get injured last year, and he put up a 94 point per game pace, which is absolutely elite for a guy who, I think it was just his third NHL season. He's only 20 years old. He's still so young, putting up a 94 point per game pace. I think that he will be a top 15 player in the NHL, and I think that he could be a top 5 center in the NHL at the end of next year. So I think this could even be a bit low. He could be a lot higher. He is an elite center. They brought in Andre Palat. They got also guys like Jesper Bratt. This Devils team is going to be scary. I think they're going to make the playoff led by Jack Hughes. Jake Gensel as well. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about him, but he's still an elite winger. Ekblad has really started to break out in the last 2 years, become that stud elite number one defenseman, and Pavelski has consistently been one of the league's best two-way players. He just seems to get better with age. He's very good offensively and defensively. Him and Jason Robertson are a big part of this Dallas team. Speaking of Jason Robertson, he leads our top 30, followed by Mark Stone, Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Eichel, Sebastian Aho, Roman Josi, David Pastrnak, and Adam Fox. Jason Robertson, following up a surprisingly stellar rookie year, put up 79 points in 74 games, including 41 goals in year number 2. He is elite. He's an amazing player, and him and Joe Pavelski are two guys that are going to lead the Dallas Stars. I think Jason Robertson is a great player, and he had a very good second year. Mark Stone, although he took a bit of a step back and he's been injured, I think he is still an elite right wing. One of the best two-way, he is the best two-way wing in the game, and one of the best two-way players in the game as well. He's elite defensively, as well as putting up very stellar numbers offensively and being a very good offensive contributor. Although he isn't a great skater, he still has good skill, and he is one of the league's best passers. Alex DeBrincat is one of the best shooters in the league, now on Ottawa. Patrick Kane, the skill is unreal, and although the defense analytically is not good, he still is not terrible, as bad, I think, defensively as the analytics suggest, as his defensive deployment is much less than ideal, and I think he still has one of the best raw skills of this generation, and he is still an elite player. Matthew Tkachuk, I think that he should have finished second for the Selke Trophy last year, behind Patrice Bergeron. He is an elite two-way player in South Florida, and he is very good, very, very good defensively last season, along with putting up, being a big guy offensively. He's big, he's very physical, but also has a lot of skill with the puck. Eichel, he's a big wild card of a player. We'll see how he does following up the surgery, fully healthy, as he was not that good last year. He was good, but he was not as good as you might expect from a top 25 player in the league, but hopefully he should come back. And although he hasn't hit a point per game yet in his career, I think he is still, in terms of talent-wise, he's well above that, and I think that we could see a 90-plus point season coming from Eichel. Aho, he's the guy in Carolina, their number one center. Josi, although I think that last season was luck-based, and I have him as my number 5 defenseman here on my list, I think Josi is still a very, very good top-tier number 1 defenseman. And he was below average defensively last year, although not terrible. He put up a ton of points, but a lot of them were just secondary assists. And I mean, he was playing a lot with Duchesne and Forsberg. They were his best first line in hockey, and he fed off of their offensive contributions a lot. But I think he still is a very good offensive defenseman. Pastrnak, we'll see what happens with him with the situation in Boston, but he's still an elite winger. And Adam Fox is one of the best two-way defensemen in the game. Now in our top 20, we have Jonathan Huberdeau, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Charlie McAvoy, Johnny Gaudreau, Patrice Bergeron, Artemi Panarin, Mikko Rantanen, and Mitch Marner, and Brad Marchand. Jonathan Huberdeau is not good defensively, but he is still a great talent offensively, being one of the best passers and playmakers in the game. Steven Stamkos put up excellent numbers last year, and age has just not caught up to him. He put up 106 points in 81 games last year, and he has become more of a playmaker after putting up that crazy 60-goal season a while back. He put up 42 points along with 64 assists, so he's still an elite goal scorer, but he is also a very good playmaker now, as he's kind of shifted to being more of a winger rather than a center. Braden Point, a bit of a step back last year from the year before, when he's looking like a borderline top 10 player in the league, but he is still a very good, complete player and offensive talent. Charlie McAvoy, analytically probably the second best defenseman in the league, and I definitely think that he can overtake that placement. I have him as the number 3 defenseman right now. I think he could surpass Hedman as the number 2 defenseman by the end of next year. He is injured for like almost half the year. He's injured for 6 months, but I think he will come back, and he is an amazing defenseman, so good defensively and also does so much offensively. Gaudreau was amazing last year, put up 115 points. He was 3rd in league scoring, tied with Huberdeau for 3rd, but Huberdeau had 2 less games, and David obviously was the leading scorer. I think that he is going to take a bit of a step down, and he's more of a 90 to 100 point guy, but he is still elite. Bergeron is the best two-way player in the game. He was a Selke winner this season, and he was absolutely dominant. I mean, his analytics were crazy. He was like so much better than everyone in so many different statistics. He was the best player in terms of expected goals for percentage. He's so good defensively, as well as still being a top-tier offensive player. Panarin, on the other hand, is not great defensively, but still the offense is at the top of the league. He's a world-class offensive talent. He put up 96 points in only 75 games for 1.28 points per game. He is such a good offensive player, but his defense does negate him a slight bit. Rantanen put up great numbers last year. I don't think he's quite a top 10 player in the league. He put up 92 points in 75 games last season, but he was playing with McKinnon too, even though he is still an amazing player in his own right and one of the best wingers in the league. Next up, we have Mitch Marner, and Marner as well. He's an elite winger with one of the best centers in the game with Matthews, but he is still one of the best playmakers in the league. So regardless of Matthews, he's still an excellent player. I think he is one of the top playmakers in the entire NHL. And Brad Marchand, he is a rat, but he is still such a good player. He's consistently been, I think, one of the best players in the league, and for so many years. He put up 80 points in 70 games, so maybe a slight regression has come, but for now, I still have to put him up there. And maybe next season, he can go back to being that 100-point type player. So now we are jumping into the top 10, and we have Victor Hedman, Alexander Barkov, Sidney Crosby, Kirill Kaprizov, and Nikita Kucherov. Victor Hedman, I think, is still the second best defenseman in the league, and although I think it could be overtaken by Charlie McAvoy or Adam Fox by then next year, I think he still gets this honor. He is such a good defenseman. He's elite offensively and defensively. He's an amazing two-way defenseman, so I think he still is the number 2 defenseman in the NHL. Alexander Barkov is also, I think, one of the best two-way players in the NHL. He's such a good center. He's elite defensively, as well as being a top-tier offensive player. He's a 9,200-point player with these elite defensive numbers. He put up 88 points in 67 games, so he was 10th in points per game. And then we have Sidney Crosby. I think he is still one of the top players in the league. I think he is still a top 10 player. I think after number 6, it was a bit harder for me. A lot of the players are pretty close, but I just couldn't justify putting a lot of these players behind Crosby over Crosby. He is still so good, and although he has battled with some injuries and all that recently, I think he is still that good. He put up 84 points in 69 games, so 1.22 points per game. He's still 19th in league scoring last year. For points per game, along with still being very good defensively. He may not be as good as he once was, but he's still one of the best and most complete players in the league, along with being having the best hockey IQ. Now, a lot of you may think that this is a bit high for Kaprizov, but he put up 108 points in his 1 games, putting him in 9th place, 4 points per game, playing with not much help in Minnesota, really elevating the game of guys like Ryan Hartman and some of his other line mates who also had really good seasons in their own right. A lot of that is because of Kaprizov, who really did carry Minnesota. Although they're a great team, he led Minnesota to being one of the best teams in the NHL last year. And I think we're going to continue to see this heading into next season, putting up absolutely dominant numbers and being such a skilled player while still without playing with much help. And of course, at number 6, you have Nikita Kucherov. I think he's comfortably at number 6. This is definitely the right spot for him. He just hasn't really slowed down. He has been so good. He put up 69 points in 47 games, which actually puts him second in points per game with 1.47 behind McDavid, 0.02 points per game higher than Austin Matthews. He's so good offensively, and although that he only played a little more than half the season last year, I mean, you can't reject the fact that he is such a dynamic and skilled offensive talent, along with not being completely atrocious defensively, but those offensive numbers are crazy, and he is still, I think, the best winger in the NHL. So, at number 5, we have Leon Draisaitl. He's below average defensively, but he is a top 3 offensive player in the game. He won the Hart Trophy a couple years back. He put up 110 points in 80 games last year, and no, he does not feed off of McDavid. He plays on his own line the majority of the time, being Edmonton's number 2 center behind McDavid. He is one of the league's best passers, right up there with Kucherov, I think it's the best, and guys like Mark Stone. He's so good offensively. He's such a great offensive talent. He not only is he one of the league's best passers, but he also is a top-tier goal scorer. I think he has the second highest odds to win the Rocket Richard next year behind Austin Matthews. He is still a consistent 50-goal scorer, along with being arguably the league's best passer. Coming in at number 4, we have Nathan MacKinnon. He put up 88 points in 55 games. For 7th in points per game last season with 1.35. And although he's never been even in the top 5, I think, for the league scoring, he still has consistently put up these top-tier world-class point totals for the last 4 or 5 years, ever since 17-18, in which I do believe he should have won the Hart Trophy. over. I think McDavid should have won the Hart Trophy, but out of the finals, I think he should have won it over Taylor Hall. However, he is, ever since then, really that breakout season for him. He has been so good, and I have to put him at this number 4 spot. At number 3, we have Cale Makar. So I do have Cale Makar slightly behind Austin Matthews. He's the best defenseman we've seen since prime Erik Karlsson. And I think that right now already, even though he's not even as far, I think he can still get even better. And he's already just as good as prime Erik Karlsson, which was, I think, a top 5 defenseman of all time. I think he'll go down as a top 3 defenseman of all time with Bobby Orr and Nicholas Lidstrom. He's such a good talent already, and he's only played in the league for 3 years. At number 2, we have Austin Matthews. He won the Hart Trophy. He is elite defensively. He was a top 10 defensive player in the league last year. He's such a good complete player. He's very good defensively. Best goal scorer in the league. He cracked 60 goals, pretty crazy. He's a 60-goal scorer, along with also getting a lot of assists. And I think that he is the number 2 player in the league. And of course, at number 1, it's Connor McDavid. Not much needs to be said here. I think when it's all said and done, he is easily a top 5 player of all time. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed. This is my list of the top 50 players. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.